We welcome you into another episode of Season Preview here on the Carlow Sports Network. I'm Sean Meyers looking at the 2026 season for Carlow softball. I'm now joined by the eighth-year head coach, Glenn Zinsmeister. Glenn, it's hard to believe that another season is upon us. So what's the feeling around the team? What's the excitement like for you and the players right now?
Hey, the team is real excited, and we're really kind of getting to know each other, and the vibe is real good at practices and workout, and everybody's excited about heading to Florida in a couple weeks here, um, and I think we're going to be okay. A real young team, but uh, we feel good about a lot of stuff.
Well, a year ago, the team went 8-8 in the conference, which is the AMCC, 20-25 overall. How did that record align with the expectations you and the players had established?
If I look at my conference record, the 8-8, I thought we let some games get away from us in the conference that we could have probably finished a little bit better than that. We were actually going into the last kind of our last home stretch of the conference run there. We were in a position to be in first place in the conference, and we dropped some games up in Alfred that we expected to win, and we just didn't. We didn't play real well. So I guess from the 8-8 perspective, on one side, I felt good about the 8-8 record, but on the other side, I felt like we could have been a little bit better. 20-25 is always a little bit. That's a little bit uh, maybe misrepresentative of us. I mean, we always open up 8 games in Florida, and we always struggle in Florida just because it's our first time playing. So sometimes I feel like our overall record is falsely towards the losing side only because opening up with those games down in Florida, and we do everything we try to do to be prepared to play down there. But obviously, our weather in Western Pennsylvania kind of hampers us a little bit along the way, and practicing inside on a turf field in a dome just doesn't seem to mimic what we need to be ready to go. But we'll see. Keep our fingers crossed for this year.
So you talked about the beginning of the season down in Florida. Well, the end of last season, you were in the USCAA World Series in Du Bois. What were the takeaways from how your team performed there?
I was pretty happy with what we did up in Du Bois. We always have it's a great experience for the student athletes. The USCAA does actually an amazing job with that tournament up there. But again, I think we fell a little bit short of where we wanted to be. I thought we were in a really good position, and then we kind of lost some steam. And I kind of liken that maybe to, and we had some really strong senior players last year, but uh, some of the people we were counting on in the circle and stuff like that were freshmen, and sometimes a little bit of experience helps navigate those high tense situations, and hopefully we learned some stuff from that last year that we can apply in future seasons.
What's been the area of focus for this offseason?
Like always, I mean, we really focus offensively in the offseason. We do a lot of work on the tee and in our batting cage. And we're working a lot just to maintain ourselves in good health. Um, our roster's a little smaller than I'm used to having. I usually like to carry 16 or more. Currently, I'm down to 12, and really 11 of them are healthy. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I have 3 healthy pitchers right now to go into the season. I'm hoping that my fourth pitcher can be on the mend, and we can have her by the middle of the season coming back. And we're gonna try to stay healthy and move forward.
So you had more than a half dozen players who exhausted their eligibility from last year, some really good ones as well. What void does that create for the group moving forward?
We're gonna well, the void will be kind of the next girl up mentality. We're going to be young this year. I mean, we have 2 seniors, we have 4 sophomores, and we have 6 freshmen essentially, or 6 newcomers. Um, so it'll be a year of discovery. Our freshmen are really talented. They've shown a lot of excitement on the field when we played our one day in the fall. But again, I've been around long enough to know that they're freshmen, and freshmen go through a level of adjustment that first year, and they have some really good games and they have some really bad games. So we'll have to learn from those mistakes that we made, and certainly we'll celebrate in the wins that we that we have, not only on the scoreboard, but personal wins for each one of those young players as they begin their development.
Well, we'll get a little bit more to the newcomers and the pitchers momentarily. First, the position players. Who are the key returners from that group that you'll lean heavily upon?
So the Egley sisters, Mackenzie, my third baseman, who performed really, really well at USCAAs. She's one of the captains this year. It's her senior year. She's solid over at the hot corner and probably just a really good pure hitter. She hits really gap to gap for average, and she does that in the clutch. Her sister Taylor caught for me that last year, and she's going to catch this year. Again, a really, really difficult out for the opposing pitchers. She takes a lot of pitches. She gets a lot of walks. Her on-base percentage is high. And she brings a little bit of the grit to our team. And then the other senior is Tatum Wiggs. She's a pitcher and a first baseman. She provides some of our power and some of our offensive pop, as well as being tough over there at first base. And she throws a lot of great innings for us as well. So expecting a great senior year out of her.
Well, you mentioned Wiggs in the circle. Who else might see time, and what are the goals for the pitching staff as a whole?
Yeah, so I think we want to get we want to get some solid innings out of all of them. I mean, obviously Wiggs is the senior. I have a graduate student who came to us from Chatham. She played up at Chatham the last couple of years. She pitches as well. That's Kaylin Lucas, and then a freshman, Gianna Ferrari. I'm expecting a lot of innings out of her. Currently, my sophomore Anna Schumacher is injured. We'll have to see. How many innings we get out of her. We're hoping that she's on the mend and that she can come back at least maybe a week or two into the season, and we can have her on the back end. But we'll know more here as the week goes on.
What are the team objectives for 2026?
Kind of like always. I'm competitive like any other person that's in sports, and we want to win and we want to make it to the USCAAs. Again, we're still in a probation on the AMCC, so we're really not eligible for postseason play there. So we want to make it to the USCAAs and Du Bois again. But from a team perspective, we want to have a good journey. We want to kind of celebrate the good part of the journey and learn from the difficulties that we have. And at the end of the season, we want to be able to look back and say that, we didn't waste our time and that we learned a lot about each other and we enjoyed the time that we had together and the opportunity to play the sport that we love while, getting a great academic education.
So you're starting to get pretty familiar with the AMCC at this point. How do you evaluate the landscape this season?
I think we'll have the same, it'll be very similar to what it has been. I mean, Penn State Barron, Pitt Bradford, and Pitt Greensburg, who won the AMCC last year, are always tough opponents along the way that I think are hills for us to climb. I think we match up really well with Hilbert, LaRoche, Alfred, and Mount Aloysius. So they're kind of like, kind of maybe the middle of the road there, if you will. And of course, Penn State Altoona is another team I think we match up pretty well with as well. So there's kind of three teams I think that are always pushing to be the elite. And then the rest of us are kind of in that middle of the road group. And our hope at Carlow is to push ourselves to the top to that elite group as we continue to build our program and get off of our probation and be eligible for postseason play in the AMCC in the future.
Well, I know you mentioned before about the trip to Florida and how it's kind of a shock to the system for some of the young ladies because they're playing against teams that probably have been outside practicing quite a bit. What are the benefits typically of making that trip?
I think there's a couple. I mean, the number one biggest one is we're able to actually get out on a field and play and do that, much earlier than we would if we were anywhere up north. The second thing is just from a team bonding perspective. I mean, when you're together and you're living together with people on the team, we do a lot of things every evening that just are some icebreaker team bonding things. And then the team works closely, obviously, to do those activities of daily living, whether it be cooking and cleaning up and just spending time together. It gives us an opportunity to even learn more about each other than we already have. Again, I think it'll be a little bit different this year with the roster size being a little bit smaller than what I'm used to. There's an advantage to that, I think, from the closeness of the team with less people in the room. But again, we'll need to be close together as we move through the season. That's for sure.
Well, maybe to add upon the point you were just making, what's special or unique about this year's version of the Celtics?
I think it is the closeness. The freshmen have kind of they're loose. Our two captains, I think, have created an environment to make it as loose as possible. We're serious and we work hard, but at the same time, we don't take ourselves too seriously, and we enjoy each moment. And look to kind of build on that in a successful way on the softball field.
Well, Glenn, thanks so much for doing this. Always look forward to our chats, and good luck heading into this season.
Thanks, Sean, and I look forward to seeing you as we start the season. We're supposed to open up at Waynesburg this Thursday, 44 degrees. We'll see what happens. Keep our fingers crossed. And then we're going to play a home game against Penn State Beaver next week before we head to Florida. So kind of excited about those two games as long as Mother Nature here in Western Pennsylvania cooperates with us.
Certainly, fingers crossed. That's Glenn Zinsmeister, the head coach of the Celtics, here on the season preview. Continue here on season preview. Sean Meyers joined by Mack Egley, utility player for the Celtics and a senior as well. And first off, Mack, thanks for doing this. How's everything been with you?
It's been great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm sure you're looking forward to your senior campaign, but let's look back at how you performed a year ago as a junior. How did you evaluate your performance?
Yeah, so last year, that was definitely one of my harder years. The end of the sophomore season, I had shoulder surgery. So coming back from that was definitely hard for me. I had to learn how to throw again, learn how to hit again. So kind of seeing how I could recoup from that, that was definitely a confidence booster for me. I feel like it all came together at the end of the season last year.
From a year ago, a lot of players have moved on. What are you going to miss most about that group?
Yeah, so definitely the dynamic we had. We were freshmen, they were sophomores, somewhat new to the program for them still. So being able to learn throughout those 4 years with them, and then also just the dynamic that we encountered on the field together.
What has been your area of focus throughout the offseason in preparation for 2026?
Definitely my hitting. I ended last year on a high note, so I think just trying to continue that speed of hitting into the start of this season as well.
So I know that you're a utility player, which means that you could probably be used in a number of different ways. What do you envision for your role this season?
Just being a leader on the team. Tatum and I talked at the beginning of this season, we're the captains for this team, but we don't want to be known as just the captains. We also want to be known as teammates. So keeping that role on the field, but not in a captain-like way.
You have a pretty cool connection because you play with your younger sister, Taylor. So What is that like? What's the bond between you two?
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I mean, there's moments that we get on each other's nerves. But we like to push each other a little bit. She's also always the loudest, even if we're on the field, in the dugout, at practice. So just having that energy with us is really fun.
What have you established for goals for yourself individually and then collectively for the team?
I think all around, we decided this season we just want to go out and have fun. We're starting off with a small roster. We had some injuries and other mishaps that happened at the beginning of the season. So just going out and having fun. At the end of the day, we're here for schooling, not necessarily for softball. That's just an extra added fun part that we have the opportunity to do. So just, again, going out and having fun.
Who do you think are some players that could have breakthrough seasons?
I think all of our freshmen have the opportunity to. I mean, our team is consists of primarily freshmen, so they come in and automatically have these big roles. But I see every single one of them growing at every practice, so I really think that they're going to come out and have that season of theirs.
You had a terrific run during your time in high school at Armstrong, championship team. What did you learn during that time that you can apply here about winning at Carlow?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily the team or not necessarily an individual that wins championships. It's a whole entire team, whether that's, the people in the field, people in the lineup, people on the bench even have some of the biggest roles for us. So I think just letting that go into this season and letting our players know that too. I mean, again, we have a small roster, so we're going to need everyone, and everyone is going to have a role at some point in a game.
Lastly, what's your favorite aspect of Carlow?
How close the community is. I mean, everyone here wants you to succeed. Everyone here wants you to go out and find that dream job of yours. Even with softball, Glenn has always made it known that we are here for schooling. So that's always nice to know, because I feel like at a lot of other universities, you're there for softball and not for schooling. So that can kind of make it hard a little bit when you're in season. You kind of want to focus on softball more, not necessarily your schooling. But at the end of the day, we don't really go anywhere for softball. So schooling's what's going to get you everywhere in life.
Well, Mack, thanks for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it. Good luck heading into this season.
Thank you.
That is Mack Egley, a senior here for the Celtics on Season Preview. We continue here on the Season Preview. Sean Meyers now joined by Tatum Wiggs, who is a senior, a pitcher, and a first baseman for the Celtics. And Tatum, thanks for doing this. How's everything going with you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Things are pretty good. How are things for you?
I'm doing well. I'm sure you're excited and everyone's excited to get this season underway. But let's look back at last year. How did you evaluate how you performed in 2025?
Yeah, I think my junior year was kind of a standout year for me. I felt probably the most confident I had in all of my years at Carlow. I also think statistically, I probably did my best, but I think overall it was pretty strong and consistent, and I was happy with it.
So let's go back to when you first joined Carlow. Your freshman year, you did not play very much, but the last couple of years, you've been a key performer, both as a pitcher and a hitter. So when you think back to your transition to college softball, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced initially?
Yeah, I think being a pitcher in college softball is probably the most difficult transition for sure. It's not so much that you're seeing different batters or softball becomes a different game once you get to college. It's just there becomes a lot more to it. I think there's a lot more strategy, especially into pitching. So there's just adjustments that have to be made as you get to know your own teammates. They kind of exemplify how you should be playing and things that are successful for them. And then as you get to know the other teams that you play more consistently, such as like the teams in your conference. We also switched conferences after my freshman year. So I think that that opened up a lot of opportunity for different people, and we're playing more competitively now in this current conference.
Well, we mentioned that it was a bit of a transition to college softball. You individually were making a big transition from California to Western Pennsylvania, one of the very few on the roster who's not from this area. So how did you get acclimated to Carlow and to Western PA, and how long did that process take?
I think I surprise people when I say this, but I don't think the weather was too much of like a scare or too different. I think the humidity and during the fall seasons, and then the moisture throughout the rest of the year was kind of my biggest difference. It's kind of cold where I'm from, so I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is so different. But I do think living in a city and adjusting to college life is just something every freshman transitions to. So there definitely was a few months my first semester that I had to grow a little, but so far, hopefully it looked a little seamless as we look back 4 years later now.
Well, I mentioned you're a pitcher. So what pitches do you throw? And do you have one that you consider your best or your out pitch?
Yeah, so pretty typically I'm throwing in a general at bat, usually some kind of curveball. I that's my go-to for a lot of things. So I can place that in a lot of different places, inside, outside, up and low. So I'll use that for a lot of different things. And then I kind of throw your regular drop ball or just hitting some basic corners with some kind of variant of like a moving fastball. But I would say my favorite, when it agrees with me, is a fun changeup for sure. I think a change of speed is absolutely necessary to be a decent and competitive pitcher, and it gives a hitter a completely different look. And I see it now, even hitters and players that have played their whole life and are seniors in college still struggle with a changeup. So I think it's definitely a fun one for me to get a good changeup on an out pitch.
Let's talk about goals. What do you have in mind individually and collectively for the Celtics in 2026?
I think individually, I just want to continue to be a consistent and positive contributor to the team. So that doesn't mean I have to lead statistically in any way or be some kind of player that's going to carry a season or support us in some significant way. I just want to be a piece that adds to the rest of the pieces. For a goal for the team, I think this is probably the most cohesive we've had as a team. We are all just very lighthearted and just enjoy being around each other. So I think it's very fun to just be with each other. So I think our goal is just to have fun right now and then be able to do it simultaneously while hopefully playing some competitive and pretty well executed softball.
Well, you mentioned cohesion. Part of that comes from leadership. Who are the leaders on this year's team?
Yeah, so we kind of have an interesting setup on our roster right now. We do not have a junior class at all. So that means myself and the other senior, Mackenzie Egley, with the addition of one graduate student who came from us from Chatham, Kaylin. These are pretty much our only senior leaders or kind of experienced leaders. So we've had a few sophomores kind of step up. We have sophomore catcher Taylor Egley. She is, if you've ever gotten to talk to her, she's a very fun personality. She takes the role of being a leader and being vocal behind the plate very literally. You will hear her all the time, and I think she creates that environment and is a fun voice for everybody to kind of look up to.
So you are one of those veteran players. There's a lot of newcomers on the roster this year. What expectations do you have for that group?
I think we have kind of talked to the freshmen about this as well. This is kind of an interesting and I think unique position that they're being put in because almost half, if not over half of our roster currently is freshmen. So they have the opportunity to kind of break out of their shell, unlike myself, where I had a more shy, kind of reserved playing time amount freshman year. They have a time where they can kind of break out and be real contributors. And I think overall that will make them stronger players long term after they've already seen these kind of things sophomore year, junior year, et cetera. So they have a unique kind of look on these things. We just want them to know that this is a place where we're all learning and working together and that they have the opportunity to kind of learn these things earlier than some of us have.
So typically the team opens the season down in Florida. I know that this year there's a few games that you'll be playing here in Western Pennsylvania before you make that trip south. And then even after you come back, there's still some adverse weather potentially when you're playing here in March. How do you and your teammates handle those conditions when they're either chilly, rainy, less than ideal softball conditions that you're invariably going to see here?
I think if I were to sum up what college softball or softball in Western PA is, it's especially outdoors, it's probably going to be how you play in adverse weather. We pretty much deal with it all season. So with most of our roster being from Pennsylvania and Western PA specifically, I think they have that experience a little bit. So it's just going to be whether you're cold, whether it's rainy, it's all of those in a day. We experience a lot of the wind. It's kind of just that pre-game communication. We're like, hey, outfielders, there's a lot of wind today. Here's how we make an adjustment. Hey, pitchers, it's kind of sprinkling. Here's how we keep the ball dry. So just a lot of communication because those things do have a factor in the game and what happens to a ball, how a ball moves, all of these things. So I think it comes down to a lot of communication and then just understanding that while you're in a game. If I'm pitching and I know that there's a weather event that's not exactly ideal, I understand the kind of conditions that myself and my fielders are playing in. And we kind of just roll with the punches and do the best we can.
What are the best qualities of your head coach, Glenn Zinsmeister?
I think Glenn's biggest strength is probably knowing, obviously he knows softball and he's been in the softball world for a very long time, but I don't think I've seen anybody know the rules and the ins and outs and loopholes of softball the way Glenn does. We have worked on smaller rosters the last few years, and that's going to be the case this year as well. We have a smaller roster, and Glenn is kind of a magician when it comes to the substitution rules and the pitching and roster rules and how he can kind of manipulate those to best fit the needs that we have with a smaller group. So great person, and he knows the rules and the kind of game of softball, but I would say that behind the scenes of that rule book, sometimes he's the type of coach that has to explain something that's super niche to an umpire because he knows those things so well. So he's the kind of guy that really is going to pick those little things and be able to manipulate them a little bit and work them out for the best for us.
Lastly, fill in the blank. This will be a successful season for the Celtics
I think it's if we have fun. I've said this is probably the most cohesive and lighthearted team that we've ever played on. We have a lot of girls that love softball, but softball isn't their life. I think that was a big factor for how we kind of decided how to approach this season. When we are having fun together, it's also when we kind of do our best in softball. It's kind of weird how that works a lot of the time, but this is a very silly group. I hope if you get to kind of commentate or watch any of our home games, you get to experience this because they are a very fun group. So I think if we can keep that positive energy and then keep it lighthearted, the mistakes and the failure that comes with softball won't hit you as hard and we won't have as many ups and downs. We'll kind of stay that consistent basic performance that we've had our whole life with a little bit of fun, a couple laughs along the way as well.
Looking forward to it. Tatum, thanks so much for doing this great stuff, and good luck heading into the season.
Thank you so much.